A group of children tries to survive the harsh conditions. Will you be able to survive in such conditions? The movie begins with a girl named Agrin who can be seen standing above a cliff. Suddenly, the scene cuts and we are taken into a flashback where we see a rural village near the Iraq border. We also see a refugee camp based in the village. Many of the villagers are trying to restore their television antennas because they want to watch the news. Currently, in the story, America is invading Iraq and everyone wants to know what happened in the news. Later, we see Agrin meeting a boy named Soren. People call him Satellite. Soren is obsessed with this invasion and has trained many village children to disarm American mines. After disarming these mines he sells them to arms dealers for money. He also learns some English to communicate with the arms dealers. In the next scene, we see Soren talking to his friend named Pahau. His friend explains that Agrin came with her brother named Hengov. She came from Halabja. Her brother lost his both arms and her parents were murdered by military soldiers. Pahau believes the little infant she is holding is her own son. Later, we see one of the villagers yelling and asking Soren if the satellite is fixed yet. Soren needs a satellite dish to provide a television connection. On their journey to find a television satellite dish, they meet a doctor who is from Iran. The doctor is old and seems friendly. The doctor is looking for someone. He wants to meet an orphan boy who is able to predict the future. Another person near the doctor suggests something else. The guy says whoever that boy is, he is lying about the predictions. Instead, we should get a satellite to watch the news on TV. The doctor doesn't agree. According to him, the news is lying and is propaganda by the government. People lie on the news to earn extra money. In the next scene, we see Soren trying to negotiate with the dealer. He sells 15 radios and 500 dinars. Dinar is a Kurdish currency. In exchange for this, he purchases a TV dish. After coming back to the village, Soren learns Hengov, Agrin's brother, has taken the children to an unplanned location to disarm the American mines. Upon this, Soren gets angry at Hengov. Hengov has found a new mine line that was not discovered by Soren. But the argument escalates and Soren and Hengov get into a fight. Soon, Hengov leaves with Agrin and her child. Later, we see the whole village waiting outside a house while Soren is setting up the television dish. Soren with a broken nose tells people he will announce whatever the news says. Soren looks at Arjun and her son Riga as they are leaving. Soon, some village elders and the village governor arrive inside the house to watch the news. Soren skips other channels and directly turns on the CNN news channel for the latest news. The elders can't understand the English language and ask Saranto to translate the English language into the Kurdish language. They are going to give him a place to live if he successfully manages to translate. But Soren doesn't understand English well enough and fails at the task. He leaves there. The next day, we see Soren and Pahau near some barbed wires. They find poor little Riga, Agrin's son, crying near the wires. They try to cheer her up when they learn he is blind. To help this poor soul, Pahau and Soren try to mock a Turkish security guard to make her laugh. But soon, Hengov and Agrin arrive and snatch Riga from Pahau and Soren cold-heartedly. The next day, we see all the children following Soren to a junkyard. Agrin, Hengov, and Riga are present in the junkyard as well. Hengov runs forward leaving Agrin and Riga behind. Agrin takes Riga aside from others and lets him play. Riga is playing near long cylindrical pipes. Suddenly, he starts to call for daddy. This shocks Agrin as she looks at Riga in horror. She is flooded with emotions because Riga's father is the one who gave her an emotional scar that could last for eternity. Later, we see Pahau coming to Soren and trying to alert him. According to Hengov, the children who worked near or on the truck are in danger. Noting this, Soren orders every child to move away from the truck. Just moments later, we see a bomb setting off inside the truck. Soren realizes that Hengov is the orphan boy that the doctor was looking for who can predict the future. Obviously, learning this now, Soren also wants to know what their future is. Soon after, we see some people throwing gas masks at the crowd. This is done to prepare the people for the upcoming war. But due to shortage, we see many coming back empty-handed. Having a crush on Agrin, Soren sends an extra gas mask to Agrin with the help of one of his friends. At first, she is trying to avoid him and tries to walk past him. But the child keeps getting in the way, insisting on her. She grabs the mask and leaves. The next day, we see Soren getting a house from the village governor and the elder as they promised for the news. Also, we see Soren going to sell his mines to a Turkish weapon dealer. Everyone thinks he is a foreigner, otherwise he won't be allowed to enter the village. Some people from nearby villages visit Soren and ask when he is going to send the children to disarm the mines in their region. Soren chooses some kids and tells them to complete this task for their fellow neighbors. Just then Soren and others see Agrin walking. To ignore them and Soren, she starts to walk faster. Even after getting ignored and shunned by her, he offers to carry her heavy bucket of water on his cycle. While their awkward journey begins, they walk by a pond that is rumored to be poisonous or impure because 3 children disappeared in the pond. Soren gets emotional and shares his feelings for her. He also says he will catch a raw red fish for her from the pond. He removes his t-shirt and dives into the pond. After he dives in, Agrin retrieves her bucket of water and leaves. Late that night we see Agrin and Hengov sleeping beside Riga. Agrin is sharing her feelings about Riga. She is having trouble accepting Riga because whenever she looks at him he reminds her of the horrific incidents that happened. Hengov tells her whenever she says something against Riga, the rope tied to Riga's legs opens up and he starts to walk in his sleep. The next morning, we see Agrin trying to burn herself in the pond she walked by yesterday. She starts to burn a piece of cloth. But as the fire is getting closer to her she hears Riga's voice from behind. His face is not visible but the shadow clearly says it is Riga. Agrin gets surprised to see Riga has escaped from his tied leg and followed her all the way to the pond. She quickly gets out of the pond and follows Riga back to their house. He is sleeping in peace with the rope tied around his feet. Later in the morning, we see Agrin slapping Riga because he is pulling her hair. Hengov wakes up and yells at Agrin for being abusive. He takes Riga with him. On his way, he meets Soren who offers to drop by on his cycle. Soren wants to know if Hengov can predict the future of war. According to him, America will successfully invade the country and Saddam will fall. Meanwhile, we see Agrin walking close to an edge of a cliff. This is the same scene we saw at the beginning of the film. She is trying to kill herself, remembering the horrific memories. All the memories of how the soldiers killed her parents, chopped off her brother's hands, and raped her come back haunting her. But she sits down instead of jumping. In the next scene, we see Soren coming and announcing the upcoming war. American helicopters are throwing peace messages in a village while Soren is visiting a nearby weapons market to be prepared for the war. He also purchases a sweet necklace for Agrin. The same night we see Agrin over dinner says they should leave the town, leaving Riga behind. But Hengov tries to convince her otherwise. Her trauma is making her do this. Later, we see Agrin picking up Riga and leaving him on a mountain. She ties him to a nearby tree branch and leaves. Riga starts crying and somehow reaches a mine-land area. On the other side, Soren is positioning all the newly purchased weapons with the help of children. Soren's teacher suggests they all should be studying instead of this. But according to Soren, they have enough education. He proves his point by asking the children some maths questions which they answer pretty easily. The teacher also agrees and carries on with his cigarette. Now is the time for war, and they need to fight. One of the children comes running announcing that Riga is near a landmine. Soren and others in worry rush over to the place to save Riga. Soren tells some to find Hengov. Riga is standing among the mines. Soren instructs Riga not to move while he carefully approaches him. Some kids try to distract Riga by honking Soren's cycle. Riga demands for the cycle and Soren agrees. Soren also gives the necklace he bought for Agrin. But trying to save Riga, Soren damages his foot badly. His peers bring both of them to safety while he is crying in pain and agony. Some villagers go to call a doctor. He tries to control himself but keeps shivering in pain. Hengov sends a message to Soren saying everything will end tomorrow. Soren instructs Pahau to announce everywhere the war will end tomorrow. At night Agrin sees Riga sleeping beside Hengov. She covers Hengov with a rug. Meanwhile, Pahau wakes up Soren at night and tells him Saddam has lost. He says he saw it with his own eyes. One of their friends arrives holding a statue arm. This statue arm belongs to Saddam. The friend says this is a rare piece and he sold all of his mines to purchase this arm. This friend also bought a gift for Soren. He gives raw red fish in a bag of plastic. His friend requests Soren to not dive into the pond again trying to find the redfish. But soon, Soren finds out the fishes are fake and are colored artificially. The same night, we see Hengov dreaming about Riga drowning in the pond. When he wakes up in fear and notices Riga and Agrin are missing. In reality, it's too late. Agrin has already tied up Riga to a stone. On his way, he is crying and hallucinating Agrin sitting and standing on many tanks. In one she is crucified. When he reaches the area he sees Soren crying near the pond. Hengov directly dives in and at the bottom sees Riga's body. He goes to the cliff where he only sees Agrin's shoes. He screams her name. Hengov picks up the shoes and leaves. Later, we see Soren watching the American army invading the country. Soren, who waited his whole life to see this moment, turns his back on his dream. He lost everything even after winning everything.